Video games can be exciting experiences. They can be tense, energetic and fun. But in honour of World Mental Health Day, I'll be giving you a list of 5 games that challenge not just your motor skills, but your perceptions, that respectfully explore all too stigmatised subjects, that sometimes play with conventions to explore more heady topics, and others that allow reflection through engendering feelings of empathy or pathos. Games that use discovery as a means of self-discovery. Hi, I'm Sean Scott, and this is Top 5 Mindful Video Games for Digital Mindfulness. Now, the content of these video games may not be for everyone. If you're unsure about playing them, do a little research online first, and remember, if you are experiencing mental health issues, reach out to a healthcare professional. I know I did, and it saved my life. So without further ado, let's take the plunge. One of the first ways people began to explore their relationship between themselves and their happiness was via philosophy, or more specifically in this case, ethics, the principles that govern our hearts and occupy our minds. Responsibility, sacrifice, duty can all come under the banner of ethics, deciding what's right and wrong on a macro level and a micro level. I could have chosen Rumu for my first pick, a little gem that touches upon, amongst many things, work-life balance. Soma is a particularly powerful and harrowing study of personal identity, memory and consciousness. Whereas games like Into the Breach teach us to regroup and make the best of a situation even when we've been dealt a losing hand from the start. Another possible pick would be This War of Mine, a game that takes the vastness of war and reduces it down to an understandable civilian level. But how can we reduce this further down to an even more intimate and human level? With monsters. Meet Undertale, my first pick for an essential mindful video game, and one that manages to make ethics fun. Toby Fox's Undertale is a gleefully thumbed nose at the mindless extermination inherent in other RPGs. It wants you to question the automatic response of these games to just get rid of what's in your path to your quest goal without thinking about an alternative approach. You play a small boy who has fallen down into a long-forgotten monster kingdom where they have retreated due to a war with the humans. As you try and make your way back home, you are beset by various puzzles and accosted by monsters whose appearance has the potential to be more than just a random encounter. As a mechanic, you can choose to talk to the monsters instead of fight, and as you learn how to appease them, please them or otherwise support them, they allow you to pass, having effectively changed their lives for the better. And who's to say that your interaction with them hasn't changed you in some way also? Undertale teaches you to be present, be in the moment, mindful of how to support the creature in front of you no matter how different it is, to think before you act. Undertale feels like it touches upon some Kantian ethics around morality and agency, and while it is a good primer for delving into more ethical conversations, in a world so full of conflict, I would elegantly and simply distill Undertale's core into make talk, not war. Now, there are many games that deal with the painful everyday, from the existential to stress and anxiety and depression. Night in the Woods manages to unfold the main character's ennui and listlessness from the interactions with her friends and family after returning back home. Just as in some cases in life, at first the signposts are there, but they're obscured, and it takes some time, some teasing out and some sharing before everyone's pain comes to the surface to heal. Celeste takes a clearer approach by allowing its mechanics and gameplay progression to engage the player. As Madeline understands herself better, expands her grasp of her journey, and engages her determination, so does the player concurrently. Games like The Cat Lady and Depression Quest take a very direct, hard look at depression. And then there are games like Life is Strange, a game that uses its science fiction leanings to tell a fully human story that holds a special place in my heart for having such a well-realised introverted protagonist and a gentle approach to all of its difficult subject matter. It's a good contender for first pick. It even highlights an associated website, lifeisstrange.com/talk, but for me no game manages to handle angst, anxiety and depression sensitively or with as much representation as before the storm. Life is Strange Before the Storm immediately fires off with Chloe's anarchic punk spirit, finding a protagonist in Before the Storm that feels rather rebellious, which is a great mirror to the quiet and whimsy of Life is Strange's Max, and the game shifts tone to accommodate this. Similar to Night in the Woods, I think that understanding Chloe and her pain is a process that's slowly revealed. She's still growing and understanding herself amidst this terrible tragedy. And she finds a kinship in this foil and potential lover in Rachel Amber, a young woman in a turmoil of her own. As a prequel to Life is Strange, it manages to create real depth to some characters that we already know the ending of, and in some way our knowledge of these ends creates a deeper, richer and I think sadder experience. Before the Storm, while also being free of the sci-fi conceits of its former entry, still manages to have its own sense of magic. It's raw, unapologetic, and sometimes that's the way to recovery. Now, you'll probably have noticed a fair amount of crossover. A lot of these games deal with multiple issues. So while the notion of grief permeates the Life is Strange series, it leads me to focus on it specifically for my number 3 pick. And that pick is That Dragon Cancer. Death, life's running mate. And yet in our toolbox to deal with such common and life-altering events, we sometimes find ourselves lacking the proper tools. Some games find their voice for exploring grief is frank yet whimsical in nature. Silent Hill 2 uses esoteric imagery that lingers long after the horror does, unlocking its true meaning only after you've grown up. Then there are those that take on different points of view in order to see all sides of grief, such as in Fragments of Him. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, is a unique game in the landscape of exploring grief, as it uses its mechanics to give the player a literal sense of loss. Each brother has his own personality, and by controlling each brother with a different side of the controller, when one isn't present, you actually feel the world without that presence. The Unfinished Swan uses art as a way of connecting a young mind with the grief of a recently deceased parent. It allows you as the young boy to go into the land of his mother's art to find meaning to their passing, and to also remember that that connection to them remains open forever. That Dragon Cancer is a game created by Ryan and Amy Green after the passing of their third child, Joel, at 5 years old after his battle with cancer. The reason I've selected it, despite its difficult premise and subject matter, is that by putting their pain and their journey into a game, the Green family have done something very touching and crucial in reminding other sufferers that they are not alone, and maybe equipping them with the hope that they could survive such an incomprehensible, shattering tragedy themselves. The game also touches on faith in a really bold and honest way. Faith can take many forms. For the Green family it was God. For others in the game it can be seen as love, hope, reflection, resilience and mindfulness. In this beautiful moment, as you walk through the hospital, you read from hundreds of real cards with messages for or about loved ones, or find similar messages in bottles floating in the ocean. That Dragon Cancer manages to strike a balance between whimsical and poignant. As the Green family go through illness, to remission, to relapse, you go through it too. Sometimes as them, hearing their most intimate thoughts and fears. Sometimes as baby Joel, seeing the world in those brief 5 years as a beautiful and bountiful place, with such a joy as to do him justice. Sometimes you float through as an impassioned but impartial observer, drifting alongside them in the intimate world they have created, in part for them to externalise their experiences of pain and the joy found in between, to celebrate the life of their son Joel, and also to invite you in to share with you whatever you need to get out of this experience. That Dragon Cancer has an emotional intelligence, and a potential for a kind of preparation for, or a salve for, unimaginable grief. Those not inclined to share the Green's religious faith can look to the Stoic philosophers for similar teachings on the subject of preparation for grief, something that we should all have in our toolbox. But shared experiences like this can help us understand that we don't always have to go through this alone. Death, at its simplest, allows an opportunity for reflection. My mother died in 2017, and on the better days I think of her, I allow myself to reflect on her as a flawed but unique human being, and how much more meaning my life can have simply because I'm still alive. But we're afforded an opportunity for reflection anytime, and on any topic that may cross our worried minds, with meditation. Blue zones, areas of the world where a supposed blueprint for the best life expectancy has been quantified, points to faith as being one of the key identified factors to long life, whether that faith is religious and the community that brings with it, or if it's more spiritual, or individual, or indeed a sort of self-recognition or mindfulness. Faith can be a Swiss Army tool, pulled out and used by anyone in the way they need. A mindful interpretation of faith could be faith in the power and capability of our brains and nervous systems to rewire themselves through meditation. After all, meditation, divorced from spirituality, is mindfulness. This mind turned inwards, or mind practiced to regularly be freed from the white noise of life, can empirically and evidentially increase happiness and affect their mind and bodily responses to stressors. So where can we find this meditation in video games? Well, Doki Doki Universe does this directly by asking you to answer a series of introspective questions while exploring a quaint, colourful galaxy and finding ways of giving the inhabitants of these worlds their heart's desires so that they may find a kind of peace. The Child of Light uses poetry in its delicate storybook world to touch upon melancholy that you and your companions carry with you. For my pick of a mindful game that focuses on faith and the spirit, I could have easily selected the lyrical and artistic Kentucky Route Zero. I mean, it's a metaphysical journey about a man and his dog driving a wireframe interstate. Described as magical realism, when it asks you to make a choice, it often asks you how you feel, sometimes not even directly, but the echoes of your choices, no matter how small, are always felt. Firewatch, on the other hand, with its simple but emotive text-based opening and its use of pacing and editing, is a lonely examination on guilt and obligation. And I found it quite a profound meditation on helplessness and the need for self-care. But my number one pick when regarding mindfulness and meditation veers towards a game that uses ancient Japanese myth and legend to bring you closer to understanding the concept of enlightenment. Okami. To refer to it as a charming Zelda clone with a wolf for a protagonist is to do a disservice to its real qualities. Despite Okami's cheeky and modern personality and its lore and plot torn from the scrolls of ancient Japanese gods and goddesses, its unique delight lies in one of the aspects of its gameplay loop. You use a magical celestial brush to paint your way out of monster encounters and puzzles in order to bloom and awaken the guardian saplings spread all over Nippon, in order to free the land of the tyranny of the eight-headed serpent Orochi. In order to upgrade your character and continue to fight the good fight, you have to use the celestial brush to help the citizens and denizens in the land. Activities such as feeding wildlife, giving sunlight to dry an old washerwoman's clothes, or repairing a child's broken fishing line net you karma, your currency to upgrade your character. And all the while they just think you're a simple white wolf and praise the gods for an intervention to which you never openly get the credit for, but you get the karma, otherwise known as goodness that reaps goodness. Playing as a goddess disguised as a regular white wolf, you even have a godhood protecting you in combat, a sort of shield, so strong that I never actually died, and in fact I rarely lost health. For Okami, combat is about the practice of using your celestial brush until you become a virtuoso with it. It becomes an extension of you. There's not the challenge of staying alive, instead there's the process of learning how to exceed so that you can go on to support others. Okami is visually and narratively playful. It's a thing of exceeding beauty. Cell-shaded plants blossom after you as you run, and as such a unique, strong female character, it's an unassuming and effective form of representation. Community and purpose are proven cornerstones of happiness and mindfulness. Bluezones can corroborate some of this, as living well seems to include a sense of social connection and the right balance of responsibility to others and to yourself, perhaps understanding where to sacrifice or where to hold on to what makes you you when faced with supporting your family or your friends. So this brings us to multiplayer games, a genre which has gone through radical shifts over the generations as technology evolves, but has managed to remain an essential element of gaming. Multiplayer games fall into multiple categories and range from the competitive to the friendly competitions to the games that focus on teamwork, and then there's the special kind of multiplayer. Journey finds expression and individualism in anonymity, and hero shooters build a community through mirroring various sports seasons, but with a focus on representation and fan service. And then there's a special brand of couch co-op, the split screens, the party games and the cinematic ones, the classic pass and plays, or the togetherness of collectively solving puzzles in The Witness, or taking turns in Parappa the Rapper or Rez. But for the final of today's Mindful Game selection, I've gone with one that is good for non-gamers also, which is important for some people wanting to get involved or to see what the fuss is about. For the final pick, I wanted to focus on cooperation, and so I've selected Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. Allowing for 4 players, and in fact improving the game tenfold if you can get that many people together, Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime is a couch co-op game, where the players share one ship as it travels the universe saving lovable little folk. Each player must take responsibility for one of the ship's functions at a time: shields, engine, one of the 4 guns, and a special weapon. Part bullet hell shooter, part roguelike dungeon crawler, all wrapped up in a cutesy accessible space adventure. Lovers encourages you to make decisions as a team and decide which elements of the ship you power up and in which way. Communication is the key. Even if you can only get 2 players involved, it only makes it more of a mad scramble as you double up your efforts to get your avatars leaping from each of the ship functions to keep yourself on course, well defended and active on the guns. What elevates it above the likes of the adrenaline-spiking yellfest that is the amazing Overcooked series is that Lovers is concerned with nobody being the boss. You can of course find yourself with the most vocal and bossy of your friends taking charge, but whereas a kitchen demands a head chef, there's no captain in Lovers. You feel a freedom to find your role in the ship, and if you're not happy with it, or if the circumstances demand it, you can switch to another one. And while you may lose a little health, no one is going to miss their order or fail to get a tip or a star ranking. There's an easygoing kind of excitement with Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. Even when it's messy, it's still fun. And when you get a well-oiled team of adventurers together, it can transcend to a truly cooperative, positive experience. Now, the games I outlined here just offer some food for thought, maybe some ballast for the journey to improving your own mental health. They're not, however, cures to anything, and not solutions to maybe deeper and more complex issues. Here is a selection of helplines, also found in the description, that may help support you with a variety of mental health issues. And if they don't support your requirements or are not supported in your region, then please feel free to search online for ones nearer to you and your requirements. But please do not hesitate, they are always there for you and your individual needs if you let them. It's also Mental Illness Awareness Week that we're putting this video out, so on that topic, Eurogamer have a refreshingly personal video that highlights which video games tackle mental health in a positive way, and GameSpot have a kind of follow-up video that explores how mental health is depicted in video games. I recommend them both, and the links for them are in the description. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this. We're trying to grow the channel here at Digital Mindfulness and would appreciate any comments on where you'd like to see the channel head, or your own thoughts on what constitutes a mindful video game, and any suggestions on what you might pick. Thank you, and happy mindfulness for the rest of your day.